You already know what we're doing. You click the video. Let's go. I spent way too long watching this show as a kid. I mean, it is the king of cartoons. This show gave us such high tier memes, and you already know when that theme song came on, you were sprinting from whatever room you were in to scream back at the TV. Comparing SpongeBob to any other show just isn't fair. We're talking about one of the best cartoons ever made. I mean, what other show does close-ups like this? And the longevity is insane. We've got 26 years of peak TV. And you cannot forget about the 3 movies. I swear to God that stuff was peak cinema. I don't care what anyone says, that shit got me emotional, and it wasn't just me.
I'm watching SpongeBob, that's the shit.
Yeah.
Motherfucker listen to Pineapple.
It's true.
Under the Sea.
Easy S tier. Gravity Falls is basically Sherlock Holmes for kids. I mean, the amount of mystery surrounding the show was insane. They had whole dedicated teams of people trying to figure out what was going on. Gravity Falls follows the Pines twins get shipped off to their grunkle's cabin in the woods, where creepy shit happens. Which is basically summed up in all 3 of these journals. No, like, seriously, I don't know how this is a kid's show sometimes. I mean, Bill Cipher is an S tier villain alone. This man will go into your mind and fuck your shit up. All because of a handshake. I remember watching one episode of the show and immediately being hooked. And Grunkle Stan having a secret lab underground. I mean, who saw that coming? Who said me? Why you lie? Luckily, he uses this to save his long-lost brother, who is obviously grateful, and after fighting during a satanic ritual, they eventually pull the old switcheroo and defeat Bill for good. And my god, was this show perfect.
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
S tier. Take notes, Marvel and DC, because this is how you do a superhero. Benjamin Tennyson, aka Ben 10, gains superpowers after stumbling across the world's coolest watch, which allows him to turn into cool aliens. Now there are 5 Ben 10 series, these 3 are good, this one's mid, and this one is complete shit. Whilst the original Ben 10 series is still amazing, I actually prefer the sequel. The intro alone is a cinematic masterpiece, and they actually made Kevin cool for once. There's just something about sequels, and the humor speaks for itself.
Gwen, you have to treat a car like you treat a woman.
Go on.
No, I sense I've made a mistake of some kind.
B tier.
You take the moon and you take the sun.
You take everything that seems like fun.
I absolutely love this show. Chowder follows my boy Chowder, who's an apprentice to a famous chef and has the tendency to mess things up. I mean, he's literally adding poison to food here. Oh, and there's this rock guy, Schnitzel, who's basically a Giga Chad and cleans up after them. In general, there is absolutely no story across these seasons. They kind of just bake random shit each episode. They do have a rivalry with this other chef and her apprentice who tries to force Chowder into loving her, which is interesting. Overall, it was a very fun and charming show, and I have still not forgiven Cartoon Network for cancelling it. B tier.
Who's that Pokemon? It's
Rizzler.
Pokemon follows Ash Ketchum on his journey to being the ultimate Pokemon master by enslaving innocent creatures. And of course, on his first day, he immediately oversleeps, resulting in him ending up with the most overpowered Pikachu I've ever seen. But before Ash can become the ultimate Pokemon master, he has to go to a bunch of gyms and earn himself some badges to qualify for the Pokemon League. Here he meets Misty and Brock, everyone's favourite side characters, who witness Ash choke his first tournament. After such an L, he hops on a plane and travels to a bunch of regions until he finally becomes world champion. But despite his many seasons, nothing will ever beat the first. I mean, the emotional storytelling was just fantastic. I nearly cried when Pikachu refused to evolve. S tier. This is by far the superior Avatar. I mean, the writers were cooking. So Avatar is about this kid Aang, who is destined to stop the 100-year war he's kind of slept through by mastering all 4 elements. Except they made fire like way too OP. Aang starts by learning waterbending from Katara, who found him in the ice, along with Sokka, a fearsome warrior. And after mastering water, how are you? They set out to find an earthbender to teach Aang and stumble across Toph, who is blind. Oh, and a complete badass. Whilst this is going on, Zuko needs to capture the Avatar, and kind of goes on a self-improvement journey instead, where they totally become BFFs. And my god, did the ending live up to the hype of this show. And you know the show is good when not only is the highest rated cartoon ever, but it also knocked off SpongeBob. S tier.
Building a rocket or fighting a mummy or climbing up the Eiffel Tower.
Phineas and Ferb starts with him saying,
I know what we're gonna do today.
and then they proceed to build the most insane shit just because they fucking can. All whilst gaslighting the living hell out of their sister Candace.
Who's Candace?
Candace
dick fit in you.
They also have a pet platypus who happens to be a secret agent tasked with stopping Dr. Doofenshmirtz, who gives his typical evil plan speech before being obliterated every episode, and in reality, they're kind of best friends, and I have to say, this gag never gets old.
What kind of a plumber are you? A platypus plumber? Perry the platypus plumber? Perry the platypus!
This show also had some absolute bangers for no reason, and I mean overall, a great show. I wish I could go back and see it again. Ate it. My god, was this show an emotional roller coaster. It had the ability to go from the goofiest scene to the most intense, heartbreaking, soul-destroying lore you've ever seen. Adventure Time follows Jake the dog and Finn the human fight off evil in the land of Ooo, which is basically a post-apocalyptic world that came about from the Great Mushroom War. But my god, does this show have the ability to be absolutely fucking terrifying at times, and I loved how intense it could get.
Let's kill the horse.
What?
I'm so tired, Finn.
Can't you see what this horse is doing? It's tearing us apart.
I mean, some scenes were just downright disturbing, for no reason whatsoever. But the side characters made this show. You had Marceline, a vampire queen and a badass musician, Ice King, a magical wizard being controlled by an evil crown, Princess Bubblegum, a scientist and a leader to her people, and LSP. But out of any of the shows on here, the ending to Adventure Time was by far the best. Ate it. This show is crazy. Jimmy Neutron follows Jimmy, a kid with a weirdly shaped head who likes to invent things. But my god, is it hilarious. I am now a Carl Weezer stan. He actually made this show so much more enjoyable to watch.
Yes. No.
I don't feel so good.
And if you've seen this show, then you know it's not great. Thank god for Carl and Sheen, because damn, they made Jimmy so unlikable in his own show. But somehow I laugh more watching this than anything else. My absolute favourite episode is when Sheen becomes so smart, he turns into Megamind and starts shooting lightning. Now, if you ignore the PS2 graphics the show has, and only focus on the humour, then it's a good show. C tier. I mean, there's no way I'm putting this into anything but S tier. We're talking about Scooby-Doo here. What mystery can't these guys solve? The Zodiac Killer? Solved. Jack the Ripper? Solved. Where your dad went? Yeah, they don't know that one. This show has been entertaining us since 1969. That is 50 plus years of shows and movies, and yet they peaked with the live actions. I don't care what the critics say, these movies were iconic. We had weird dog creatures, Mr. Bean as a villain, who turned out to be Scrappy Doo, who I absolutely hate. But overall, both live actions were absolute masterpieces. And yet they still don't beat Scoob. Esther. The Amazing World of Gumball is pretty good. We follow Gumball and his adopted brother Darwin.
Fuck you, kid. You're adopted.
As they attend their totally normal school, where no chaos ever happens. Because that would be terrible, right? Actually, the show is a lot like Adventure Time, where we'll switch from being silly and goofy to showing an important message. And what I liked is how each new episode felt like its own journey. I don't think any other show had as many unique episodes as this one did, and the show was extremely well written, with some great episodes, steamrolling some other shows. A tier. You know who else loves a regular show? Oh yeah, there's nothing regular about this show.
That horse right there fell out of the sky and has to pass a US history test or the whole Earth is gonna explode.
I genuinely don't know how the writers came up with half of these episodes, and yet even with the complete randomness these episodes had, they were still beautiful in their own unique way. And damn, they could hit you in the feels. And my god, again, the ending to this show was absolutely fucking phenomenal. I don't know what it is with these cartoons and their endings, but they make them so good. I mean, it has a 9.8 for Christ's sake. And I liked how they showed what happened afterwards, which is rare. A tier. I tried so hard to like this show, but it's trash. Sorry, Steven Universe fans. I like the idea of the gemstones, and the story isn't the worst thing in the world, and I can genuinely understand why people enjoyed this show. But I didn't. Again, they just made Steven so unlikable in his own show, and I just found myself hating this kid for no reason, which kind of ended up spoiling the rest of it for me. So, D tier. It was actually my first time watching this show, and it gets my seal of approval. I seriously missed out as a kid. They essentially took Kung Fu Panda and Power Rangers and merged them together. I mean, Master Wu is basically just Master Shifu, and along with Jimmy Neutron, this show was actually fucking hilarious.
You ruined my life. How could I ruin your life? I wasn't even there.
I was pretty much laughing every episode, and the movie was actually surprisingly good. Overall, the show was solid, and I was actually surprised how it could get you in the feels. This scene at the end was actually kind of heartbreaking, but as we know, everything's better in Lego. A tier. Again, this was my first time watching this show, and it was pretty good. It's basically one big Mr. Beast challenge mixed with Survivor, but I actually really enjoyed how different this is to any other show on here. Now, technically, Total Drama has multiple seasons, but really, people only care about Total Drama Island. So, Total Drama is basically one big reality show hosted by this guy on a remote island where he gets a bunch of contestants to fight over $100,000. I mean, how is that not a Mr. Beast challenge? I actually really liked all the contestants, and after watching, I think I need to update my Hear Me Out cake. Overall, the show was unique, but definitely could be better. B tier. Fairly Odd Parents is fairly odd, and thank God Timmy had Wanda and Cosmo, because this boy was getting mistreated by every guardian he was meant to have. I genuinely think the writers were spinning a wheel to decide episodes of this show, because I have seen regular show, and somehow this was more random. I mean, what is even going on here? And don't get me started on the fact that Cosmo literally gave birth one season, but if you somehow manage to peel back all the weirdness this show has, it's actually pretty good, but also a little exhausting, so C tier. I mean, it's SpongeBob. Highest rated cartoon for a reason, but number 2 on this list. Biggest mystery is why we were not given more seasons. I mean, just for that Pikachu alone. Literally the greatest detectives on Earth. I think this show actually emotionally traumatized me. Literally couldn't even tell you what happened. Quite possibly the most insane summer ever had. What a beautifully written show. Lego and ninjas, baby. I mean, where can I buy this watch? Somehow an even worse cook than me. Mr. Beast clearly watched this show as a kid. Somehow the most confusing show on here. Just give me an hour-long special of Carl Weezer. I actually don't have anything positive to say.